Happy holidays, and welcome back for a special new Best of Worst list. Now, this time I am doing an updated edition of Star Wars. Now, with that said, I'm going to be ranking, as of right now, the theatrical live action films, so excluding the animated film from the list. Besides, basically, it was just a pilot, more or less, for the animated series. By the way, first, before I get started ranking these, keep in mind this is 100% my own personal perspectives, and the ranks have changed over time. Rewatching these films over and over, plus, so there will be definite bias, keep in mind. Also, everything is subject to opinion, so that's how it's gonna be, and of course, keep in mind, I am a major defender of the prequels, and I always have been, always will be, and I don't think they deserve the hate they get. With that said, and by it want to say that I'm not a real Star Wars fan. Well, first of all, I have the Air 2 season somewhere, but I have the entire series of Star Wars Rebels. So, also, every season of course, Clone Wars, which I love this show, always have, always will. One of the best parts about the prequels is this show, which has such good script writing, and it deserves way more love. Also, yes, I have back when I was younger, but the point is, I have seen the unaltered original Star Wars trilogy on VHS. This is what I grew up with. Was the original version, which of course will probably never get re-released, but I'm fine with that. Because newsflash, I actually like the special editions. Then again, I also saw special editions first before I saw the unaltered version. But today, if you want this, you have to either have VHS or Laserdisc, if you want physical. But with that said and done, first up total we have 11 movies, 2 standalones, and 3 trilogies to look at. So, with that said, first coming in at number 11, in my opinion, arguably the weakest of the live action Star Wars films, at least from my own personal perspective. Coming at number 11, and I'm sure I'm going to get some hate, and that's fine with me. Don't care. Coming in last place for me, in my opinion, by far the weakest of all of the Star Wars films is Episode 8, The Last Jedi. Besides really stupid decision making with this film, I will say there is so many issues I have with this film, multiple things. One of the biggest first issues I have with the film is the editing. The pacing is trash in this film. This is by far, in my opinion, the worst paced live action theatrical Star Wars movie, pure and simple. I don't care what anybody says, that's my opinion, but there's way too much filler. There's like an entire 30 minutes of filler, and it totally ruins the pacing and everything for the rest of the film. Plus, it's basically a chase film. There's so many stupid decision making on this. And the thing is, I know I don't hate Rian Johnson. I loved his film Knives Out. That was a great movie. But he needs to stay away from Star Wars. Rian Johnson created by far the worst Star Wars film of all time, in my opinion. And because of that, it suffered also the other films. Frankly, and for the most part, I'm not a fan of the Disney era. Okay? I'm a big defender of George Lucas. Always have been, always will be. And the point is, these films were made to make a profit, not with passion or love like the prequels had. Speaking of, next up, coming in 10th place, in my opinion, just barely above it, is the last of the Disney or the sequel trilogy. And that is, coming in 10th place, is Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker, which is a really stupid overall, so many decisions, because JJ had to retcon so many things from Episode 8, because Rian Johnson retconned so many things from The Force Awakens. The films do not go together well at all. There's way too many issues between characters, pacing, editing, all the retcons. So many decisions have made by far episodes 7 through 9 the worst Star Wars films of all time, in my opinion. Speaking of, coming in next in ninth place. At one time this was a lot higher, but as time has gone on, rewatching a lot of the air films, it's allowed me to reevaluate things, trying to keep things from falling, but it's allowed me to look at things from a new perspective, and I'll be honest, I am not one too happy about this. And I'm definitely not a fan of a lot of the decisions they made in The Force Awakens, looking back now. This film has definitely dropped in rank for me over time. And yeah, it comes in ninth place now. Coming in seventh place is, in my opinion, probably the second best of the Disney era. And that being, of course, the second of the two standalone films that Disney has done. And of course, that being obviously Solo. This film is genuinely a movie that has slowly grown on me over time. I will say, like I showed it here, in my opinion, is by far better than any of the Disney episodic films, pure and simple. Better than any of the sequel trilogy. Better pacing overall, and I think a lot of the acting choices were great in it. The post-credit scene, or whatever, was superb. The reveal. Also, admittedly, I really like Rian Johnson. Or not Rian Johnson, but Ron Howard, who ended up directing this film. Ron Howard did an excellent job, but I'm a pretty big fan of Ron Howard's career in many films he's done throughout the years. Next, coming in at, well, how should I put this? Coming in next in seventh place, and I'm sure this is going to be a controversial pick, and I'm ready for hate. For me, coming in next in seventh place is none other than Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. As time has gone on, I've liked this film a little less and less. Are there many highs in this film? Most definitely. There are definitely some highs. To me, the best parts of the film specifically are the moments between the back and forth banter between Vader, Palpatine, and of course Luke. Also, the elements in the beginning with the gangsters and everything involving Jabba was superb. Those are the best parts. However, I absolutely am not a fan of Endor or anything with the Ewoks. I hate the Ewoks. Like most people hate the Gungans, that's how I feel with the Ewoks. I hate them with a passion. I don't like them. Never have. And I dislike them even more after when I finally went around and watched both the Ewok standalone movies. They're absolute utter garbage, in my opinion. Also, not a fan of the Ewok animated series either. But with that said, next, coming in sixth place, arguably by far the best of all the Star Wars films done under the Disney era. And that is, of course, Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, which I much prefer the more gritty and war tone that they went with this film. Also, I love a certain android in this movie. Very great, very excellent pacing. Everything is put together very well, and I can even tolerate the CGI Tarkin, which is understanding why they did what they did. Plus, it was nice getting to see more of the origin story of course, obviously, the Death Star and everything. And even CG Tarkin doesn't bother me at all. And I actually really liked it. That was probably the best route you could go. Questionable with the way they used the CGI, of course, at the end with Leia. Didn't really have much of a choice in the matter, unfortunately. But overall, it's excellent. It is by far the best film of the Disney era. I will say that. And it deserves all the praise it gets. It is a great film. And there's a reason why I have it ranked this high at number 6. Because it is genuinely a great Star Wars film, a great sci-fi film, in my opinion. But it is easily probably the best overall pacing, length cut, everything. Very well executed. And by the way, if you're wanting to know quickly grades, what would I give each film? This gets a big fat F rating for me. This gets a flat D. This gets, right now, as of the moment for me, gets a C minus. This gets a C plus. It's actually, like I said, pretty good. I give Return of the Jedi also a C plus. Pretty much the same rating overall. What do I give Rogue One? I give, honestly, Rogue One rating overall. I'm going to give it probably a B plus. It is a very good film overall, like I said. Next up, coming in 5th place. This is probably going to be somewhat controversial, as time is going to have come to once again more respect and enjoy the film for what it is. Next for me coming in, which is going to be the next of the series of Star Wars movie reviews. So far I have reviewed, of course, Episode 1 on my secondary channel, The Goku Report. But this is my next review, and this is currently my 5th favorite Star Wars film. By far the weakest of the prequels, in my opinion, and I see how you're staring at me, Yoda. But anyways, I like this film. Yeah, it does have many issues, a little bit too much, I think, reliance on CG specifically. But fun fact, there was a huge amount of practical effects done on the prequels, and if you don't believe me, go out of your way and watch all the documentaries and like behind the scenes stuff on episode 1 through 3. They actually used more practical effects in the prequels than they actually did in the original trilogy. If you don't believe me, actually do your research. Don't be a mindless drone fanboy from like the 70s or 80s who only praises the prequels or praises the original trilogy and stuff out of blind nostalgia without admitting there's a lot of flaws to the original trilogy. More so, in my opinion. But with that said, honestly, I give this film probably, it's a teeter between a B plus. I would say at the end of the day, I'd give this honestly a B plus overall. It's a great film and deserves so much more love than it gets, and it did an excellent job with the way it handled elements, specifically with world or universe building, with obviously introducing new beings and stuff like the cloners and many other things, as well as the introduction of Jango Fett, which I love Jango Fett more than Boba Fett. Fun fact. But I love this film also. CG Yoda is best Yoda in my personal opinion. Don't care what people's opinions are on that. But for me, I love it, and I love Count Dooku. I think Sir Christopher Lee was awesome as Count Dooku. And as always, yeah, there was a lot of bad stuff in the dialogue department, I will admit to that. Especially the love stuff, but at least we got some great memes out of it years later, like the whole sand meme. But still, there are a lot of positives, and also, I'll be honest, I think some of the real battles and stuff in the film actually are good. That's one of the areas I think this film actually does well in, is the battle scenes. Like, with the chase scene between Obi-Wan and Jango in space, great scene. Dogfight in space. Many other things I really like, as well as the introduction of the Clone Army and start of the Clone Wars. Loved it all. And I love also the introduction of the Kaminoans and everything, as well as learning about other stuff behind the scenes. Excellently well done. Next, gain an A minus rank. And coming in 4th place. I know some people will be angry with this, because many people think this is by far the best Star Wars film of all time. Maybe in some people, blind nostalgia opinions. For me, somebody who does not have the blind nostalgia for the original trilogy, I'll be honest, I can see a lot of flaws, though it is still great at the end of the day how everything was done. Still, coming in 4th place for me with an A minus is Empire Strikes Back. To me, the opening to Empire Strikes Back, I do have some issues, and by the way, I do like the special edition of Empire Strikes Back more. Just like, for the most part, I also prefer the special edition of also A New Hope, for the most part as well. Here and there, hit and miss with Return of the Jedi special edition versus original. But for the most part, I do like the special editions more on the original trilogy. But anyways, like I said, there are many grand moments, probably the most memorable moment of all time, well, for a long time there, from this film, obviously, with Luke, I am your father moment, as well as many other things, and people who want to talk about there was no trade or political discussions in the real Star Wars trilogy, blah 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 blah. Maybe watch or listen to some of the dialogue in Cloud City involving Leia and also Lando. There was actually political discussions and stuff in the original trilogy. Stop with the blind nostalgia goggles and maybe actually look at it from a critical perspective. At least that's the thing I could say for myself. I can look at it from a critical stance just because I don't have the blind nostalgia factor for the original trilogy like most people do that want to bash on the prequels. With that said, coming in at number 3 is the Star Wars film I have seen more than any other film of all time of Star Wars movies. My third favorite, with getting a flat A across the board. And that is, of course, none other than Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, which is a movie that does not deserve the hate it gets at all, in my opinion. This film is great, has so many memorable lines, and like I said, I despise and hate the Ewoks, I don't hate the Gungans at all, and I actually really have always enjoyed Jar Jar. Never hated him, like so many people for some reason have a real blind hate for Jar Jar, and the original fans caused a poor innocent kid from Episode 1 to end up getting into drugs and stuff. So congratulations for that. Original blind fans of the original trilogy, you caused a lot of, definitely, a lot of trauma and a lot of time with shrinks for that poor child actor at the time. So gee, thanks for that. Yeah, some of the original Star Wars fans I have argued with online for many years and talked to and stuff, and they have just a blind hate for the original. And I'm even talking about a film pundit I have somewhat respect for, has a serious blind hate. And his name is John Campea, which has a blind hate for the prequels for whatever reason, because he is a blind nostalgia for the original films. Get it? You grew up with the originals. Guess what I did too in the 90s? I was raised with the technically special editions, but I did manage to get the original trilogy and see them, and I still think the special editions are better, so whatever. With that said, third place, I like it for a lot of the quotable lines. I can quote this movie word for word. I've seen it probably about 45, 46 times, and I'm not even joking. Next, getting tied, basically, but coming in just barely at number 2 slot is the original Star Wars film I saw, of course, originally known as just Star Wars, then would be known later as, of course, A New Hope. Arguably my favorite of the original trilogy, always has been, pretty much always will be. I was never one of those people that thought Return of the Jedi was the best of the original trilogy. Never thought that way, and I never will think that way. But, as I said, I really like the special edition altered stuff added in this, specifically with some of the X-Wing scene elements that they altered, also other elements. And I didn't mind Jabba interaction with Han either in the special edition. But with that said, I give it a A+. Honestly, I love the film. Always will. But coming at number 1, arguably in my opinion the most underrated of all the Star Wars movies, is my number 1 favorite of the prequels, my favorite Star Wars film in general, and in my top 10 favorite movies of all time. And that is, of course, with the Steelbook version with General Grievous on the front, Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, which ended up creating a meme that has actually now, I think, surpassed Luke, I am your father, and that is the Vader no. Let's be honest, it has surpassed every other scene in Star Wars ever. The Vader no, I think, will outlive anything else from Star Wars. At least the memes or one-liners. And at the end, yeah, I love this. I think it has the best soundtrack of the entire series, and so many great moments of just complete quiet, relying on just the music, the scenes, and the facial expressions and stuff. Especially at one scene when Anakin is basically at the council chamber, staring at where, of course, Padme is, and she's staring back with that perfect piece of music in the background playing, which puts everything to, I think, perfection. This was the last 3.5 minutes of the film, with the build-up obviously leaning into, of course, Episode 4. Perfect 3.5 minutes of complete silence, just allowing the music and the characters to explain everything just through their emotion in the imagery. Superbly well done. You would not see that stuff in any of the Disney films because everything is done through a marketing stance. It's all done for just the profit. That's all Disney cares about is money. They don't care about you as a person. They don't care about anything. At the end of the day, they only care about how much money they can make out of you and milk from you. That's all they give a crap about. At least George Lucas had passion. And that's one of the things the prequels have, the sequels in Disney era will never have. Love and dedication. And those of us who defend the prequels and have for many years, like myself and a few others here on YouTube, we can certainly say this. At least we have conviction in our viewpoint. We aren't some person who jumps on fads because Disney likes it. This and that, defend because Disney, this and that, blah, blah, blah. Well, because of the underhanded stuff and given how Lucasfilm is being done now, screw you, Kathleen Kennedy. Goodbye, Bob Iger. Not gonna miss you. Personally, I kind of hope Bob Chapek reverses some of the decisions at Disney, but I feel like somehow Bob Iger's gonna find some way back in, even though I hope he stays away and Kathleen Kennedy finally goes bye-bye. And others, hard to say what's gonna happen. We'll see in 2022, I guess. But for now, I'm boycotting any future right now Star Wars stuff made by Disney. Because I'm not supporting a company like Disney. I will support Spider-Man, like movies and video game stuff, because I'm supporting Sony, not Disney. Because I refuse to support the MCU right now, or anything at all Disney complete control. I don't support the crap they've been doing underhanded stuff behind the scenes involved in the CCP and other stuff. Anyways, I'm gonna keep that up. I've already talked about that in a rant video on my secondary channel if you're curious about that, but I won't allow mentioning that kind of stuff here on my main channel. But anyways, that is it. That is my thoughts on best to worst list. And to anybody who has a problem with me loving the prequels as much as I do, screw you, hater. That's all I gotta say. Screw you, and stop using your blind nostalgia for the original trilogy or your blind loyalty to Disney. Screw that. But with that said, I'll see y'all next time. And in the near future, I'm going to be giving my thoughts, by the way, on Venom Let There Be Carnage. And I'm seeing, hopefully, in the next week, the new Spider-Man film. And I am looking very much forward to that movie. But I'll see y'all next time. Stay safe. Same YouTube time, same YouTube channel, and hopefully enjoyed the retrowave music I chose for the video. But have a good... Well, I'm actually filming this on Christmas and hopefully uploading it today. So everyone have a good happy holiday, Christmas, and have a good Boxing Day tomorrow to Canadians. See you soon.